Hey guys, this is Hayes with CheatSheetPros.com. It's been a while since I've done a YouTube video, so I wanted to show you what I like for the Monday Night Football game tonight, and also go back and just take a look at the new scoreboard that we put in over the last couple of weeks on our edge plays. So they ended up really well yesterday, so this column right here in J, you can see this is the edge. So over here we have the Vegas line projected total, and then we have some stats for our calculations, and this is our projected score in line for the game, and it shows you what the edge is versus the Vegas spread. So these are not the games that I wrote up and that I like. These are just blindly what the numbers are pointing at to help you with your research. So as you can see, they ended up doing really good. They were 15-10, so 60% with 2 games left, with Seattle -2 tonight and the over pending, so we could go up and above 60%. So I'm going to walk down through these, and then we're going to take a look at some Monday night props that I like. So looking at this first game, Detroit Green Bay, that happened on Thursday, our edge play was Green Bay +2. It was a loss. Detroit ended up winning that game. Detroit is actually the side that we had liked and that I discussed in the chat with everybody, but I'm not putting my plays. These are just blind, whatever the numbers say, so that is a loss. Going here to Atlanta, Jacksonville, this game was supposed to be a dumpster fire. We had an edge on Atlanta. That was a loss. Now, how you come up with that is -5, so we had Atlanta winning by 2 and they were getting 3, so that is a 5-point difference. On the total, we had it going under. So Vegas had it at 43. We had it at 40. Under by 3 edge. That was a winner. Flipping down here, then we went on a little bit of a streak here. We had Tennessee +2. They end up winning the game. That was our edge there. We had under, and that ended up winning there. Burrow had a rough game. Right here you see an edge of 1, so that's a 1-point difference. So we had Washington losing by 8, but they were getting 9 and even 9.5 by game time and 10 in some spots, and they took that game into overtime, so that was a winner. We had this game going over. Vegas had it at 43. We had it at 48, an edge of 5. That was a winner. Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Saints were favored by 3. We had it, a pretty tight game, so slight edge on Tampa. That was a winner. We also had this game staying under. That was a loss. They went over. We had an edge here on the Rams +1. The Rams won. We had the total right on Vegas, so no edge there. We had a pretty good edge over here. You'll see a check mark or a half star for our larger plays. So if our edge is between 3 and I think it's 6 points, we get a half star. If it's a touchdown or more, then we get a green check mark. And the same with the total. We'll get an up arrow or down arrow if it is significantly different. So this is our first half star play, you could say, was going to be on Houston +3. We had them winning the game. So we said that line should have been Houston -2. So it's a 5-point difference. That was a winner. They won that game. And then we also had this game going over. Vegas was at 42. We were at 44. And so we had that going over by 2. That was a loss as it just stayed under. The Baltimore game, I just put kick out because Watson was supposed to play. He warmed up, but then he was ruled out before the game. So go ahead and kick that one out. Whenever you put a rookie QB in there, everything changes. So we're going to throw that one out. Denver, Chicago. This is actually a game I wrote up Denver on the website for our premium picks, but the line had a very slight edge over to Chicago, which started off really good. Fields came out and just had an absolute heyday. It was actually very lucky that Denver won that game, but either way, that is a loss. Now, our biggest difference on the entire slate was the over in the Denver and Bears game. It was at 46.5. We had this at 54. Had it going over by 7.5 points, and you can see the check here, and so that was a winner. Here we had Carolina -1, and that was a loss. I actually wrote up Minnesota in that game. That was one that I liked, but if you're looking at raw numbers and edge plays, that was a loss. Again, this is just to help you start your research and point you in the right direction. As far as the total, it was 46.5. We had 47, so technically that is an edge, so that is a loss. Over here, we had Buffalo with an edge of 2. They were -2. We had them winning by 4. That was a winner. They crushed Miami. We also had this game staying under, and that was a loss. The game went over. Here we had an edge on the Chargers, and that was before any type of QB changes or anything like that, but that was an easy winner. We also had this game staying under, barely. That was a winner. Over here, we have an edge on Dallas. They opened at -6. We had them winning by 9, and they rolled that game, so they won. We also had this game staying under 44. That won. Over here, San Francisco, Arizona. My lean was to San Francisco, but I could have seen Arizona staying within 14. They've played in every game, but the edge was for Arizona, and that was a loss as CMC went bananas. We did have this game going over. That was a winner. KC, New York Jets, we had this game going under. That was a loss. There was no edge on the side, although I did write up KC as a play, and that one did not hit. And then my favorite game of the board that you're going to see is the green check mark here, which if there is an edge difference of a touchdown or more, and here we have Seattle. So this is one of my favorite plays that I put in the article, and that we'll discuss here in a minute, but we've got this game as 31-21 with a 10-point line for Seattle. Of course, Vegas can't open New York Jets as a home dog of double digits. That would be insane, but I will gladly, this opened at Pick'em, it's -2. Still -2 today, so that's an edge. I will take that. And if you want to go with the over, I don't mind going over 47. We've got it at 52. I prefer the Seattle side, but we'll take a look at that game. But overall, these plays, I was pretty impressed on the sides. They were 8-5. On the totals, they were 7-5. And so 15-10 with 2 games left to go. So 60%. And there's 2 of them in there that we didn't like, that we went against. So you could even crank that odds up a little bit more if you really dig in and do the research. So overall, that was a very good Sunday for NFL Week 4. And then let's go take a look at the game tonight. Quickly, I'm going to show you what I like and kind of what I wrote up. And let me get this resized here a little bit. Oh, but where did that go? Sorry about that. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. So we click in here to the home team. We're going to go down here to this last game on the slate. We have the Giants versus Seattle. Seattle is -2. Over here, you can see that our projected line, basically 31-21. We have a 10-point edge on Seattle. We have the number 4 offense and number 23 defense versus the 29th offense and 31st defense. I always go down here and I look and see kind of where their yards are coming from. Here we got kind of a average mix, 13th and 16th. These are your rankings over here for Seattle. So they're kind of right in the middle of the pack on the just over half. And then over here, the Giants really aren't doing anything. They can't run the ball. They can't throw the ball. They're not putting up much yards per game. 28th in yards per game at 253.3. They're struggling. But if we go over here and we look at their schedule, they've played Dallas and San Francisco, 2 of the top defenses. So let's give them a break. As far as defensive yards allowed, glance at this and then we'll talk about it. What jumps out at you? So the one thing that jumps out at me, we'll go ahead and I'll tell you, see if you got it. Over here, Seattle is allowing the 6th least amount of rush yards per game, but they are allowing a crap ton of passing yards per game. So they are 6th in rushing yards allowed, which is really good, but 31st in passing yards allowed. So that tells you that they're probably getting a lead and teams are airing it out to catch up with them, but they're giving up 407 yards per game. So that is going to give the Giants hopefully can score some points there if you like the over. That's why our model is pointing to the over. But also yards per rush attempt, that's something else to look at. They are giving up the 3rd least at only 2.9, so I would not expect a big game from Matt Breida on the ground. Over here, Giants, they give up a bunch of rushing yards. Not a ton of passing yards, but usually if the team can run the ball, that's going to be their path to success. They're 29th in rushing yards allowed per game at 138. Whenever you look at this number, you also want to look at the rushing yards allowed per attempt. Typically anything over 4, it's going to be a very successful night for the running back. So 4.2 is kind of middle of the pack, but that's not good. You compare it to 2.9 on the other side. So here Seattle's going to be able to run the ball. So that's the first prop we are going to look at. And then the points per game, I'm just looking at plus minus. So they're scoring 29, allowing 29. That's even. Giants are 14 and allowing almost 33, so that's negative, 16, 17 points. If you're doing totals, you can look at plays per game, but I'm also going to look at the allowed red zone touchdown percentage, and here you can see Seattle's giving up 100% touchdown rate for teams that get inside the red zone. So that's kind of alarming for a side, but again, if I'm only laying 2, I don't mind that at all. These other stats we don't have to get into. We quickly see that against the spread, the Giants are 0-3, and Seattle is 2-1. You can kind of take a look at the total, home road, etc., etc. Basically, our model has Seattle winning. I always want to look at the schedule here and kind of see who they played. The Giants look terrible stat-wise. That's why our model is pointing so hard to Seattle. But you can see they played Dallas, which Dallas came out gangbusters. And then they played San Francisco, who's really good. So they played 2 of the top teams. And then they played Arizona. They scored 31 points, but they came back in the second half of that game. They were getting crushed in the first half of the game. So they're decent, but not great. Over here, they lost to the Rams 30-13. The Rams were surprising. Detroit and Carolina, they put up 37 points against each one of them. And we've seen on Thursday night, Detroit has a really good defense. And then Carolina, they've actually got a really good defense too. And they hung in that game yesterday and probably should have won if they could have kept them off the field a little bit more. But what else jumps out at me is that Seattle's allowed 31, 30, and 27 points. So they are giving up points to Carolina, Detroit, the Rams, pretty decent teams, not great, but when you're allowing over 27 points a game, that's going to point you right to the over, which we've got it at 51.6 points, so we got it going over, but not by a ton. The Giants do worry me a little bit, but if you're betting on a side, I do love Seattle. They've looked great here, and I lean towards the over. I probably will not bet the over. And then when I'm going to come down here, I'm going to go look at where are we at? Game logs. So game logs, as always, you click in the home team, you scroll all the way down here. We got this game up. You could quickly see kind of what Vegas has it, a quick offensive, defensive, and points per game ranking. So some of the things that jump out at me, we talked about the Seattle running backs. Kenneth Walker would be the number 1 prop that I like. I believe his rushing yard prop is like 60, I didn't write it down, like 63 to 66, somewhere in there. What I like is the volume. He's had 17 and 18 carries over the last 2 weeks against pretty decent rush defenses, and he scored 2 touchdowns and 2 touchdowns. So the one prop that I like, and here let me pull up my post that I put on Twitter. So I put this on Twitter and the Facebook group, so let me make sure you can see this. I'm going to move it over here to the edge. So Kenneth Walker over 66.5 rushing yards. That's the first one that I like. That's my favorite prop. If he gets 17 or 18 carries, he should cruise over that number. I even like going up to 75 yards at plus money if you're doing a same game parlay, which down here you can see I did a 75 plus rushing yards and anytime touchdown at 2.55 to 1, so plus 255. He's coming off of a game where he had 97 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then only 43 yards, but 2 more touchdowns in the prior week. So I like his volume over these last 2 weeks. So I like his rushing yards to go over. And with him getting a lot of red zone carries and then what the New York Giants are allowing, I like him for an anytime touchdown, minus 110. That was the second play that I had on here. I don't mind if you want to go over to Zach Charbonnet. His usage is jumping a little bit. So he went from 3 carries to 4 carries to 9 carries. So now this will be real. I'll be curious to see how many carries he gets tonight. You can see he's projected for about 7. If he gets 7 to 9 carries, he should cruise over his 24.5 rushing yard total. You can see he had 16 with only 4 carries in week 2, and then 46 on 9 carries in week 3. So if they're working him in a little bit more, 24.5 is a very low number for him to get to. So I like to lean on a Charbonnet rushing yards over. Looking down, Geno Smith, 248.5 passing yards. So looking at this, I think the running the ball is going to be their path to success, but Seattle is always going to throw the ball. And you can see here, he's got 328 yards and 296 yards. So he's averaging about 300 yards per game over the last 2. So this first game, it's starting the season. I'm going to throw it out, not even look at that one. These last 2, he's thrown for 2 touchdowns and then a touchdown last week. And then 296 and 328. So I think 248 is pretty low going up against a Giants team where we are leaning on the over. And then also we have to have a pass catcher. So DK Metcalf at 63.5 receiving yards jumps out at me. I'm coming down here, I'm looking at this. The first game, we can kind of throw it out. 3 for 47 and a touchdown, not bad. But these last 2 weeks are what I'm really focusing on. 6 and 8 targets for 6 for 75 and 6 for 112. So he's kind of the wide receiver one right now. Now, if you're doing a receptions prop, then you might look at Tyler Lockett. He doesn't get as many yards, but he gets a lot more targets, usually running out of the slot. He's got 17 targets over the last 2 games versus only 14 of Metcalf. But Metcalf is more, he's got a higher ADOT, so he's getting more catches down the field, so he's going to get more yardage. And then Lockett is going to be the one to get more receptions. Jackson Smith and the Jigba. I was looking at him. He's getting some targets, but he's kind of the third man on the totem pole, and then you're working in another rookie running back, so there's not really a lot of volume for him, so I don't like a play there. As far as the tight end, no, I don't want to go that deep. And then, let me see here. All right, so we're looking at New York Giants. So if the Giants put up some points, what can we do? So we're looking at Daniel Jones. I don't like a lot on the Giants side. I like back on the Seattle side. He had 104 and 137, and then all of a sudden 321. So he's a little bit all over the place. I like to see a little bit more consistency. His rushing prop might be something to look at. He had 43 and 59 before going up against San Francisco, who obviously saw this and said, nope, we are not going to let him run the ball. But rushing yards, Seattle doesn't look like they're going to be able to stop him. So a Daniel Jones rushing yard prop would be something to consider. Price Picks had it at 34.5 when I updated the sheet on Saturday morning. So maybe lean over there. That was not on this write-up. I just noticed that. So we're going to do an impromptu play. His picks. I typically don't do a lot of props on interceptions because it's usually 1 or 0. So there's not a lot of flexibility there. Saquon, he is not playing this game, or at least I do not believe he is. Matt Breida, he really hasn't done anything. 9 yards, 5 yards, 4 for 17 yards. If you want to bet an under, I would do a Breida under. Seattle does not give up a lot of rushing yards. So Slayton is one of the receivers we can look at. 5 to 6 targets a game, 3 catches each game. Not impressive, but someone's going to have to catch the ball and score. Hodgkins, don't really have any interest in him. Paris Campbell, though, with 12 targets over the last 2 weeks, he's someone that we could possibly consider if you want to mix in. If you're doing a same-game parlay, I would not do like Slayton, Paris Campbell, and Darren Waller because they're all 3 likely not going to go over. I would pair, Daniel Jones with Slayton, or Daniel Jones with Campbell, or Daniel Jones with Waller, and then take a plus money yardage prop on each of the receivers and try to get 3 individual bets for maybe a half unit that are plus money if you want to go that route. Waller has the most targets at 15 targets over the last 2 games. So we've got 15, we got 12, and we got 12. None of them have really done anything. Waller does not have a TD this year. Hodgkins has 1. Paris Campbell does not have any, and Slayton does not have any. So nothing exciting on this side. If I am doing a prop, I'm probably looking at Darren Waller with the 15 targets. He should get a lot of volume. His price pick line was 47.5, and he's projected at 57, so not bad if you want to go there. But again, my preference would be over here on the Seattle side. And then let me blow this up for you, and we'll wrap this baby up and let you guys get back to work. So over here, my same game parlay, I did one with Kenneth Walker, 75 rushing yards and an anytime touchdown, plus 255. And then I did a separate one with Geno Smith, 225 passing yards. You can go up to 250 if you want to get it closer to even money. With DK Metcalf, 50 yards. That feels pretty safe no matter how the game plays out. It is minus 145, so you got a little bit of juice there. And if you put 1 and 2 together, it's 525. So if you take Kenneth for 75, a score, Geno 225 and 50, that is a high possibility of something happening. And it's plus 525, so you're getting 5 to 1. So a very low win percentage is what you need to be profitable there. And if you want to add in a Seattle money line play at minus 130, it cranks this baby up to plus 750. So that's what I got, and that's our recap from last week. Good luck, guys, and we'll see you for week 5.